Welcome, everyone, to Vision Untethered Conversations with Inspirational Visionary Leaders. Too often, business owners find themselves tethered to and held back by their business. We authentically unpack together the biggest learning opportunities and insights, both in business and in life, and identify saboteurs that keep many of us tied back or tied down. Today's guest is my friend Greg Warner, visionary founder and CEO of Market Smart, a trailblazing company that is revolutionizing donor engagement and fundraising strategies. With a passion for helping nonprofits maximize their impact, Greg has developed innovative solutions that connect organizations with their most generous supporters, driving meaningful, sustainable growth in charitable giving. Love it. Greg, so glad to have you. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, what is your purpose, cause, and passion that brought you to business ownership and specifically within this industry?
Yeah. So my purpose is, and it took me a long time to figure out my purpose here on Earth. You have to really look for it. But my purpose is to reduce the friction involved in the philanthropic process. And I do that with technology,
Hmm.
tools, and ideas. My cause is essentially to save philanthropy because it is in decline.
Hmm.
Around the world, but especially in the United States, which has been the leader. And
Yeah.
purpose, cause, and what was the last one?
And your passion. Yeah. Why?
Well,
Your
my
why.
passion is seeing results as because of the implementation of my ideas and
Mm.
tools among the fundraising sector.
Hmm. Love it. Such a beautiful mission and
Thank
passion
you.
to have. Yeah. What are those friction points and how does Market Smart solve those?
So the friction points are related to a misalignment between organizations and benefactors, donors,
Mm. Hmm.
volunteers, philanthropists. And when I say philanthropist, I don't mean just people giving a lot of money because philanthropy is the love of humanity. I mean, that's the definition, that's what it means.
Mm.
Philanthropy is giving time, treasure,
Hmm.
and that can include volunteering. The challenge is that most organizations, big or small, have really become unbelievably organization centric, and
Mm.
they don't operate because they're nonprofit and because of the structure, the bureaucracy that needs to be created. They don't operate in a customer centered way. It tends to
Mm.
be more of an organization centered way, and they don't think of donors as customers enough. In fact, some people involved in nonprofits abhor the donors. They want their money, but they just want to be left alone
Mm.
to do the job they see the way it should be done. So
Mm.
there's this internal gravitational pull to essentially make the organization the hero of the story. Like we're great. Look at all the children we're saving or whatever.
Yeah.
But the donors want to be part of the story. And in fact, when they're giving away their money, they want to be the hero. And it's through the organization that they're achieving the success and the meaning in life that they are searching for.
Mm.
That means that the organization needs to sort of become the sidekick,
Yeah.
Robin to Batman,
To the
maybe
donors.
to the
Yeah.
donors.
Hmm.
And because truly great stories have just one hero, unless you're like creating the Avengers,
Yeah.
but that's rare. I mean, most of the time,
Right.
great stories are like Luke Skywalker defeating Darth Vader. Donors want to be the hero of their own life story, and they have many options among giving choices.
Yeah.
So the organizations that allow and foster the donor's hero story will remove friction from the process and generate more revenue. So this is highly philosophical, and I know I'm going on and on. You asked two-part question is what is that friction? And I'm giving it to
Yeah.
you like 1,000 pages of research, and I'm giving it to you in a paragraph. But how Market Smart helps
Yeah.
is that we've developed a system that first involves analyzing an organization's effectiveness and fundraising effectiveness. And we have many tools, and one of them I'll tell you about, we give away for free. The paid system is one that automatically engages supporters,
Hmm.
including donors, volunteers, Facebook followers, and such. It engages them and invites them to lean in,
Mm.
provide feedback, not to provide money. There's an old saying,
Yeah,
if
to be a part more and engage in that full story, that hero story that takes all the human power, all of the manual effort that typically takes within nonprofit organizations to foster those relationships, to keep them engaged as if they're customers, as if they're the audience, right? So, yeah,
That's
that's a
exactly
huge.
right. The
Mhm.
organization centric way to look at it is we need money. We have a problem. Give us money. It's very extraction and transaction oriented and internally focused on their needs. The engagement fundraising operating system, which is my methodology, is
Yeah.
all about providing value to the donors and supporters through engagement opportunities. And people categorize charities in a different part of the brain than they categorize products and services in the commercial world. The part
Hmm.
of the brain that literally lights up when people think about their charities is the same area that they think about when they think about their family and loved ones.
Hmm.
So
Makes sense.
when a loved one asks for feedback or advice or help, family members lean in. And what we recommend is starting the process by asking for feedback, not asking for money. And then our system uses the feedback they provide and monitors their further engagement on the charity's website to speak to them relevantly with AI style automated emails that are personalized and relevant and prove
Hmm.
to the donor that the organization heard them and is trying to understand why they care, what they
Hmm.
care about, and how they might want to give and when.
Yep.
Over time, this automation warms up the donors, and the biggest ones raise their hands and eventually even set their own meetings with senior leaders at organizations to have serious conversations about impactful giving. So
Yeah.
I know I'm talking quite a lot to answer just one two-part question, but that's the answer. Hope that's
So
okay.
good. Oh yeah. Well, I think setting the stage and that whole picture is helpful for a nonprofit organization to truly understand. And that without a tool to truly engage those that are giving in those philanthropic efforts, the engagement declines or the effort required then to continually elevate the revenue and be able to make an impact, right? Their outcome, the nonprofit is larger and larger impact. More lives helped, more people helped, more, right? And so to see that full picture is very helpful. Those that are more engaged in it outside of just, hey, send us your check are likely to give more and proven to continually give and to grow those monetary efforts probably.
Well, and the big part of the equation is timing, especially for people with capacity and wealth,
Hmm.
because the richest among us, it's not always the right time for them to consider making an impact. They might have family that they're taking
Mm-hmm.
care of or sick, or maybe they're looking toward an liquidity event where they're going to sell their business. So right now is not a good time, but in a year from now, once they cashed in on their business, now is a good time to think about philanthropy. Plus, they have a little bit of a lottery effect. So, fostering the relationship in a considerate way and
Yeah.
instead of asking because the organization wants the money at the time that they want it, taking a supporter's pulse over time is a big key to the process.
Yeah, I love that. And what better way to do that too? And, systematized in a way that they can be reached and there's a touch point at the timing, at the right timing, for there to be an impact directly on both accounts.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
everybody's busy these days. I mean, the
Hmm.
nonprofits don't have enough staff. They can't just call and visit with everybody.
Right.
And everybody doesn't want to call or a
Hmm.
visit anyway. So, like, why don't we just let the automation do a lot of
Mm,
this until the timing's right?
love it. So
That's my
helpful. Yeah. Wow, that's really helpful. So, in development of this, and throughout your journey, specifically with what you've learned and with Market Smart and business itself, what's the biggest mistake or learning opportunity that you've made along the way?
the biggest mistake. Wow. I've made so many mistakes. The biggest mistake, I think early on, I tried to do almost everything. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to see everything. I wanted to be involved in everything. And the more I tried to manage that and oversee and drive for perfection, the more I drove away really well-meaning, high-performing, smart individuals who could have helped me get to another level sooner. So they talk in EOS about letting go of the vine.
Mhm.
So I think that that's an it's a very helpful theory, but one thing that Gino doesn't say in traction that I learned the hard way, because what I was about to tell you is that I let go of the vine very quickly. First, I was involved in everything, and then I let go of everything.
Mhm.
So what I learned that was a big mistake.
Mhm.
Gino, and I'm not knocking it. He's right. It's
Yeah.
just he says to let go of the vine, but I think there should have been an added sentence or half a sentence to that is let go of the vine when you know for sure that it's all being taken care of. And
Mhm.
that can happen in steps. But my big mistake was letting go of the vine too completely and then coming back and being like, what the F is going on here?
Yeah.
And it's really my responsibility to coach people and help them get it.
Yep.
And so you can't just let go of the vine. There's a
No.
process to letting go of the vine. And
Yeah.
I was very willing to be like, yeah, okay, let's flip the
That
switch.
sounds great.
Yeah, I'm out of here. You guys take it. Well, not exactly.
Yeah, I one analogy that I kind of put together as I was putting together some content yesterday and thinking through this in for coaching material, right, is thinking of it as a master chef. And one of my favorite shows recently is The Bear. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen
My
The
wife
Bear?
watches it. Yeah.
Oh, you gotta watch it, Greg. It's so good. But thinking of that, just this mastery of perfection in exactly how things are going to be made and taste and look and feel in the environment of what it is that this visionary has created. But when you're the master chef, you can't do all of those things. You can't do all of them flawlessly forever. And so there is this process of teaching, mentoring, guiding in those phases of being able to create a kitchen. Let's look at the business as the kitchen, right? Your sous chefs and the table setters and the ingredients, those that are getting the right ingredients and all of those elements that come together so well still require you. So at what level where they're going to require that in the business, whether it's you, whether it's a successor of you, right? But that level of care and attention and that vision is still there. So there is that fine line, and it probably, it could be spelled in, but I think You're maybe one of the anomalies, and I'm probably similar in in that sense where I'm quick to kind of just trust and let people figure it out and let go too soon, and then you got to reel it back in. But I think there's so much beauty in that learning opportunity, both for myself as a leader, both for and for a team, because then we can start to build that trust. Hey, it's okay. Don't do that again, or no, that's not the right way, or let's go back to it. It's my responsibility to ensure you have it, to know that you've got it and you understand it, and that takes continual reiteration. And you can never fully just fully let go of the steering wheel. There's some, in some capacity, that responsibility does fall on us. So that kitchen analogy kind of helps with like the master chef. It's like there's still this master vision in place, and you kind of elevating to this role of like mentor and guide looks different, but it's not fully hands off,
Yeah, one
and the
thing I've
business
learned
needs you.
from
Yeah.
from this is that it's really important for the visionary to lay out in great detail exactly how every process and procedure should be run and why. Very importantly, why.
Why? Mm,
And that needs to be the first MVP, like minimal viable product, or any individual operation within the
yeah.
company. And all of these, and people talk about playbooks and policies and procedures, but it's deeper than that. Those are the iterations that come from the initial mind dump. Like you need to start with more, in my
Hmm.
opinion, and then let people go from there,
Yeah.
and then you together you chip away at the best practices and you get it right to the playbook. But I think the step that I missed, and now that I do, which is very hard, is
Mm,
to sit down with a blank sheet of paper or Google Doc or whatever and just stream of consciousness write out why we're doing this, what it should look like, how the customer should feel, whatever it is, in
hmm.
unbelievable detail. Which some of these documents are like 30 pages, and I'm like, oh boy, my poor staff, they have to like read this, but they come back and they're like, no, 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 this is really thorough, unbelievably helpful. I get into the science of why it's important, and because I love researching that and explaining it, and then they come back, they try it out, and then we chisel away at it until we
Hmm.
have a process that can be overseen by others, not me. I'm good
Right.
at the visionary sort of like word vomit document.
Yeah.
And
It's
people
good.
seem to appreciate it because now they understand my vision in
Yeah.
all its depth and vastness. And they don't want to do that work
Yeah.
mostly, but they do
Exactly.
want to take it from there.
They need it and they thrive on it. And so for us to withhold that is where, I mean, it's better to have it too much of it than not any or not enough, right? And so that's
They deserve it. And we owe them that foundation. That's
yeah.
called leadership. Because while my definition of leadership
Hmm.
is leaders make people feel safe, and people feel safer when they understand your vision.
Yeah.
Now, with even ChatGPT together, we can refine it. We can
Hmm.
ask ChatGPT, okay, what are the bullet points? Help us create a playbook or an instruction manual. But it's really up to the visionary to really lay it out. And
Yeah.
you can't just chat GPT that. If you do, you're not really building your vision. You're building something else from a computer. So you've really got to
Hmm.
sit down and do that work. It's very hard.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the hard work, and oftentimes too, that's where the business and the visionary is tethered in the business, keeps keeps the business and thriving and understanding and that clarity and the vision and where it's even going. The more you know. deep down into the details or the day-to-day minutia we can become, the less that clarity and vision gets created and communicated and elaborated and innovated on. So it literally is holding the business back, the less clarity we're painting as leaders for what that vision actually entails. Takes a
And,
lot of time.
and by not doing that work,
Hmm.
you hold the business back, you hold your people back from growing, you essentially hold yourself back from finding the freedom that you wanted because
Hmm.
in many cases you wanted freedom and that's why you started your own business, but then you end up being an employee of another business.
Hmm.
Like that's not that's not really it. I really you want to be an employer and a builder of systems so that eventually the you become an investor in the business.
Hmm.
You need to be a system owner and then an investor. Otherwise, you're really you think you own your business and you think you're an entrepreneur. And I've heard people call themselves that, and you're really just you are the owner of a business, but you're really just an employee.
And the business owns you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are
And
some key signs you see that a business owner is too tethered in their business? And how does it impact? So, what are those signs? And then how does it impact the ability for the company to grow and to innovate?
well, I mean, they're really clear and easy to see. They're the people who feel they need to check the work of their staff and then they spend all weekend like rewriting it or redoing it. It's like, well, then why do you even have these staff? I've seen this many times with these owners. They that's probably a big one is meddling too much. Like if you don't trust your staff, then you haven't elevated so you can delegate.
Hmm. Exactly. And then how does it impact the company's ability to actually grow when we're doing that?
Yeah, I mean, you suffocate it. It can't grow because it's dependent. It's too dependent on the one individual, and rather you want it to be dependent on a system,
Mm,
an operation.
yep.
You want it to be plug and play so that you can hire if some we have a something at Market Smart called the hit by the bus concept.
Okay.
It's
I like
just
where this is headed.
we assume everybody's going to get hit by a bus. So if that's the assumption, then everything needs to be documented, procedures need to be outlined, videos need to be incorporated, and we use Confluence for all this to store it. It's like our wiki for how to do anything
Hmm.
in the company. Because if somebody, God forbid, gets run over by a bus,
Right.
we need to be able to plug somebody else in, even if it's a part-time freelancer, and help them get up to speed like instantly. So if you're not building that as a visionary and instead you're focused on actually doing the work instead of building a system, well, I get it because when I started the business, I had to do all the work. I didn't have other people, but
Right.
what happens is then as you start adding people, you get into this really messy middle stage where you're still doing the work and you're trying to elevate and delegate. And
Hmm.
there's sometimes you feel like, well, there's just not enough time in the day, but you can't afford not to step out of the business, whether you do it at night or you wake up really early and get a fresh cup of coffee every day for a week and write it out, or you do it on the weekend. You have to put in the extra time
Right.
so that you can elevate and untether yourself as
Absolutely. Yeah. What's a valuable lesson you've learned along the way about the importance of vision and execution in tandem together?
I think the scorecards concept that Gino, you can tell
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of EOS. I mean, any
Hmm.
operating system includes these.
Yeah.
So I just think Geno's is the best because for
Hmm.
a guy like me who couldn't get into business school and, you know, was like a C student,
Hmm.
I didn't get the master's degree in business. I don't know all these things. He basically gives you a master's degree in 200 pages. And so to answer your question, I think the scorecards are really, really important because they help you understand where the friction is in the process, where your point of constraint is, and what you need to be concerned with. Where are the
Hmm.
issues? So scorecards and making
Yeah.
sure to look at them weekly. And
Yep.
I'll accentuate that because I get it. Left to their own devices, no offense to my staff, but it's human nature to not look at this every week
Yeah.
because it brings accountability to measure, and that can be uncomfortable.
Hmm.
People would rather not have to be accountable, but it's important to press on that and install the scorecards and make sure because people will fix and repair and improve upon that which is measured.
Right.
So if you're not
Once
focused
it's
on,
measured, we're actually focused on what needs to happen according to that measurable, right?
yeah,
If we don't even know what we're measuring and what the outcomes are that we need to be achieving, then the work is just directionless.
yeah, and I'll tell you the scorecard, creating scorecards is very hard too. It's kind of like what I was just talking
Yeah.
about with this word vomit document. So what we
Yeah.
did was as a leadership team was we all came up with metrics that we thought were important, and it was like 10 each. And then we put them on
Hmm.
a wall with stickies. And then we just kind of debated it like, hold on, really? Like, which ones are the most important? We moved them to the right. Which ones are not so important? We moved them to the left. And then we kept refining and taking them off the wall until we only had
Yeah.
a certain number. But even
Hmm.
then, 2 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later, we're still always questioning and iterating on the scorecards.
Hmm.
So it's not a one and done episode, and getting started is the hardest part. But you have
Hmm.
to sit there and think, what are the core metrics that are really essential for running this business so that your team not only understands how to operate the business so you can be untethered, but they become accountable to each other and the mission through
Hmm.
the accountability measures and the scorecards.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you though, I'm making it sound like we're running perfectly over here. We're not running perfectly, So for anybody listening, it
Right.
all sounds great on paper. It's very hard. You're dealing with humans and emotions
Hmm.
and past experiences and cloudy sunglasses. Like people see things from different perspectives. So
Yeah.
uh, that that's a whole other set of work that needs to be done in order. But I will say we've made a lot of strides, and I'm becoming more and more untethered, so much to the degree
Good.
that the core business is working, and now I'm pretty much just spending time building a whole new software application
Hmm.
that will feed into our core. But I'm out there dreaming and talking to
Yeah.
potential customers and doing what I love to do because 80-90% of everything else is just running.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's two things really stand out to me: progress over perfection. Because even with a system for several years, we're constantly reiterating the system. We have to. If we're not, then it's not actually growing. And with new people and new complexities and growth of that require us to constantly reiterate. Yeah, the scorecards, it's a constant reminder for me within teams and bringing things back to the scorecard, or we're adding into the scorecard, we're taking out of the scorecard, we're constantly asking. Is this the right measurable? Does this make sense? Is this getting us closer here? Are we missing something? Because each week this is falling through the cracks, or right? So that just adopting that mindset that it is an iterative process and every step closer to progress is better than perfecting it, is something you have to understand and know and accept, right, as a leader,
Mhm.
because it's never done. And the second thing that really stands out, and we hear this in the world of EOS all the time, it's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes.
The tools are simple. It's simple. Just make a scorecard, right? It's simple. Just hold your people accountable. It's really simple. Just have meetings. And these are the meeting structure and just stick to that. But it's not easy. None of the work is easy. Getting everything out of your head in a core process that spells out the way in which we consistently operate is so hard. But the actual tool itself, it's pretty simple. You just need to do this, this, and this. But the hard work is constant and iterative. So yeah, it's a good reframe, and nobody's going to have it absolutely perfect. So
Well, you
that's
brought
the
up a good
beauty.
point with the word progress. So let me add a little fuel to your fire, is that progress is happiness, right? But from a leadership perspective and talking about making people feel safe when they feel like they're making progress. So it's even in our employee handbook that
Hmm.
we recommend that people never feel or say that they're going to work today at Market Smart. We never
Hmm.
say, or I have to go to work to our
Hmm.
kids. Say instead, I'm going to make progress today at Market Smart, or
Hmm.
today I have to make some progress. So if
Hmm.
you replace the concept of work, which is drudgery, with the idea that no, you're not working. You're of course you're working, but you're not doing
Hmm.
drudgery, you're making progress. And making progress, when people make progress, they feel good.
Yeah,
So I think that's part of the process is helping your staff understand that they're making progress towards a worthy goal.
absolutely. Yeah, and that we celebrate those, right? Celebrate those small steps, celebrate those wins, and we're having fun. If this isn't fun and there isn't reward or success, or we're not making an impact, then it's not fun. And those initial stages can be painful because a system, as we know, just brings to light. It just exposes everything that we're missing, that's not happening consistently, that's not being tracked appropriately, that, isn't being held accountable by one or more individuals. Once we get the past that exposure and we start doing the hard work, it becomes fun. It is rewarding, right? It is exciting to call out, like, oh, look at where this was when we started to what it is now. That is care and security and safety for people, is knowing they've contributed and they've made that impact in that way. And then it's fun. It doesn't feel like, oh, I just have to go to work. I love that. So I love that you're building that.
Smart people don't want to just trade time for money and do work.
Right.
They want to make progress.
Yeah.
It's how people find meaning in their time and effort.
Yeah. Smart people, trustworthy people, accountable people thrive in environments where there's accountability, where there's trust, where they can be trusted and pushed and grow. They want to be in those environments where everyone's being held accountable and they want to be held accountable. So that is creating safety. That's creating psychological safety and a good place to work. So we talk a lot about culture then, and this kind of ties into my next question, and that being, all based on culture and values within the organization. What role does that play in enabling a business to thrive independently of its founder? So letting go and untethering. What role does culture play, and how have you cultivated that with your team?
Yeah, culture is very important. I used to brush it off,
Mm,
especially in the early dot-com days and such when people were sort of installing culture with beanbags or, games and silly things.
making fun break rooms and happy
Yeah,
hours.
it was,
Hmm.
but culture begins with leadership and the leadership team, but especially the visionary, outlining very clearly what kind of values the people who come into the business have. And we have another thing in our employee handbook, probably should be reviewed by a lawyer, but it says don't pee in our fishbowl. So, what that means is, I think you know what it means. Do I need to explain it? Is
Uh,
these are our core values. And here's another thing though that we do on our careers page. We ask people to submit their resume, but I developed a survey for people to
mhm,
fill out. And
mhm,
anyone can go to our website and see it and rip it off. It's fine. We barely look at resumes because they're all lies.
mm,
So we just read what people write in these open boxes, especially in the survey. And we can tell, like, I mean, first of all, if they don't even really fill it out, then we know they don't care.
mhm,
If they fill it out, they can tell us a story or stories that help us discern who they really are and what they're really looking for.
mhm,
um, I think that's a powerful first step before you even meet people to determine if their values align. And you should put it on your site, explaining your values. We have something, in fact, on our site where on the hiring pages, there's an Israeli flag and it says, "We support Israel's right to exist." Hey, look, I'm Jewish. I don't want some anti Semite or terrorist sympathizer to join our group. I don't need someone who wants me dead to be a part of the company. So that's right up front. Like, hello, don't even apply.
that's not a tall order, that much to ask. So
Well, in
you
this
would
day and
think.
age, unfortunately, it kind of is.
Hmm. Yeah. Or I mean, I think that just goes across the board, right? Setting that standard for what it is that who we are and what we support rules out anybody that would look at that as a way or question. I've seen that a lot too with like the LGBTQ community. When we're showing alliance as a core value, an alliance of supporting those who are marginalized or uh, need that advocacy, Jewish community, whatever it might be, right? Any racial prejudice, that it's fascinating how quickly that rules out, even if it's not something that's an immediate issue to that individual, and they haven't even thought about it. If they're questioning why that's there in advocacy and why, assuming that that's not necessary, that in itself is another sign. Like, you not aligning with the fact that we need to spell this out and we need to paint this picture of who we are and who we support means that you're blind to it, or you don't care enough about it, or so yeah, it is. That's a strong message and a way to align with the right kind of people far earlier in the game, and not dependent about on their competencies as much as just who they are as people. Yeah.
It's just that you can get so much more. And I don't want this to sound crass because these are human beings, but you
Mm,
can get so much more performance and output out of one good hire. And
yeah.
frankly, if you pay them 20% more, you'll get double or
Hmm.
quadruple. And plus you'll get fewer friction points, my favorite
Yeah.
word, friction.
Hmm.
And, but one bad hire can be so disruptive and tear down everything, really
Yeah.
everything. So I
Mm,
think it's really important. I think people don't spend enough time really crafting a team and making sure that the core values and the culture fits.
mhm.
If you focus on it, which is there's a lot to focus on in a business, but it is the leader's, the visionary's job to set the culture and
Absolutely.
sit there, sit another white blank sheet, any color sheet of paper, anything, and sit down and really think about what you want and what resonates. You have to do that hard work and draw lines in the sand. You just have to.
And if it's not true to you as a visionary, if there's a mismatch, even the slightest, just in you, then it's never going to be something, it's going to be an ideal maybe you aim for, right? But if it doesn't start first with you aligning in full authenticity of who it is, then how can we expect to draw that? How can we expect to attract that if there's a mismatch and you're saying something about who you are that actually isn't true? Good or bad, right? Like maybe it is an ideal and maybe, that is something you want to aspire to. But until it's authentic and it's real, we can't build something upon that and attract that to grow upon if it's not true.
Yeah,
So
so
we
one
have
of
to
our
start
core
there.
values is that we're radically truthful, and we get a lot of head shaking about that. And we talk to people during the interview process is like, you know, first of all, Greg Warner, talking about myself in the third person. It's funny. I have one employee who's been with me through another business, and so it's been since 1996 that she's been working with me.
Wow.
Uh, wow. It's almost, how many years is that? Almost 30 years? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Oh
So,
man.
and most of our employees stay, they never leave. It's
Hmm.
really amazing. It's like a cult. No, it's not a cult, but it is, it is,
We'll take
people
that out.
tend, yeah, no, you don't have to bleep that out, but they
I'm
do
just
tend
kidding.
to stick. And she's I'm reminded about when people are tiptoeing around and they're wondering what Greg Warner thinks. She says, look, if you want to know what Greg thinks, just ask him because he will tell you.
Hmm.
Don't beat around the bush. It's like a hot cup of coffee. You might not like it at first, but you'll know at least where you stand. So this has been inculcated into our core values, and it's hard for many people to understand that that's for real. It's not just me that's going to operate that way, but everybody has to operate that way, and then within limits. Like we had an issue where one person was had no filter whatsoever, and we kind of take that one aside and say, maybe practice using some softening statements before you say. You don't need to just say that sucks. You could say, hmm, you know, I've been thinking, and this might sound a little harsh, and I don't mean to offend you, softening, but I think that maybe it could possibly be improved. And here's just an idea for you to do it this way.
Hmm.
So yeah, you don't have to be an asshole to,
Yeah, honesty still comes with kindness, right? You
yeah.
still have to be kind. You can be honest about and express, what it is that you think or what needs to happen or yeah, what you think about it in a kind way. So, it's
It's
not
good to be
honesty at all
kind, not
costs. Yeah.
kind, be kind, not just right.
Hmm.
You don't,
Hmm.
being right does not trump kindness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In a world where you can be kind or be right, choose kindness. That is an actual quote. I don't know who said it.
Wow, cool. We'll attribute it to you.
Don't, because I definitely didn't come up with it, but I've heard it enough and repeated it mentally to know that yeah, it's out there. Love it. So to finish this off, Greg, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are struggling to let go? and to trust their teams to take on more without compromising their vision.
Yeah, the advice is really just a recap of everything we said is you have to, in the end, everything is your fault as the visionary and the owner of the business. The buck stops with you. So if you don't have the right people, that's your fault. If you don't have the right culture, that's your fault. And if it's not inculcated and people understand it, that's your fault.
Yeah.
So, spend some time blaming yourself and
Hmm.
then get with the program and don't just push it off because you need to, make more pizza or deliver more packages or whatever your business is. You have to elevate outside of it and spend the time with a blank sheet of paper with a pen and a cup of coffee is a magical, magical device. Just
Yeah.
take that damn paper and just start writing no matter what. It's not, doesn't need to be perfect. Just start writing and let
Hmm.
it flow because the answers are in the ether, whatever God and spirituality you believe in.
Hmm.
It's all out there. You just need to connect it from the ether to this reality.
Yes.
So if you'll open yourself up and let it come through you
Mm,
into a pen and a piece of paper, then it becomes something that can't be removed from this dimension.
mm.
But it's out there. I'll just finish up by saying,
Love that.
I'm an old man, so I appreciate a band called Fleetwood Mac.
Yes, I love
Right?
Fleetwood Mac. I have them on vinyl. I have them
I
on
do
vinyl.
too. I do too. And that's the way to listen to them and other bands from like the 80s and 70s. But I
Hmm.
saw an interview one time a long time ago from Stevie Nicks talking
Hmm.
about songwriting.
Hmm.
And she said, "Yeah, you don't understand. It's not like you think. The song already exists. I'm just trying to bring it into this dimension in and do it justice so that it's
Ah,
that good."
that's
And
beautiful. I love that. As you were talking, I was literally thinking it's out in the ether, but in my mind, what I'm hearing you say is it is in us. It's already here.
well,
And
the
so
ether is part of us. We're all
we're
just
a part
energy.
of it. It's all connected energy. Yes. So if it already exists, the energy is already there. What you know and this transfer and this vision of what it is you're creating, it's all inside us already. In us, around us, inside us. And when we stop to actually listen, when we stop to allow that flow to come through us, and especially in writing, you're right, that is the most powerful tool. And leaders or business owners who write consistently, anything, everything, but are in the consistent practice of that, is magical. And it's such an untapped tool, and I hate when I hear people say like, oh, I should probably journal more, or I've thought about like journaling, or whatever you want to call it. All you need is that pen and anything, right? There's so much that comes out and through us when we just sit in that it's space. It's huge and it's already in us. We're looking for the answers. We're looking for what do I need to do next? Like I don't know what to do, or I'm really stuck. It's already there. So what a great reminder to leave everybody with. I love that.
Yeah, well, I'll leave then the last point on that because I know a lot of people won't sit down and do the writing. They won't sit down and journal.
No.
They'll say to themselves, "Yeah, I should do that," and then they'll finish listening to this podcast and they won't.
Right?
So I'll just tell you what I've learned, and maybe this will be helpful and get them. But it's natural to not do it. Okay, so
Hmm.
it's unnatural to do it.
Hmm.
And when I say it's natural, it's because us humans, we're designed for safety. We look for safety and doing things the way we've always done them every day, every week, every year is comfortable and more than comfortable. We are designed to operate that way because it makes us feel safe. Sitting down and opening ourselves up to the ether to create a new pathway is not natural. So give
It's
yourself
not in
some
our natural
grace.
tendency. Yes.
Understand it's that's why it's hard. But if you want to grow and if you want to build something that is going to last beyond you and something that will provide for you and your family beyond the years where you cannot actually do the work, like if you're sick
Mm,
or
yep.
dying,
Yeah.
then you have to do this kind of work.
Yep. Absolutely. Beautiful. Beautifully said. So good. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I loved our conversation, Greg. To find out more and if people want to get in touch with you, where's the best place for them to reach out?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. Generally, I guess just look for Greg Warner. But
Hmm.
if they want to find out more about Market Smart, the website is imarketsmart.com, the letter I. And the free application I've been giving away is called the Fundraising Report Card,
Hmm.
which is at fundraisingreportcard.com. So if any of
Hmm.
your listeners are board members or even work at nonprofits and such, or just care about nonprofits, we give away this fundraising report card as a free metrics analyzer and visualizer that helps nonprofits understand their performance metrics and see them visually, which is something that usually board members and oversight and leaders are not provided in a very simple and easy to
Hmm.
understand way. So
Hmm.
this tool I developed to help them do that, and there is a free version which is pretty powerful, so they could try that out too.
Yeah. Incredible. Good tool. Great. Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.